All right, it's another episode of Watch Strappin. These are not watch reviews, so just a quick wristwatch check with a strap pairing. And if it's a new watch, it will be on the stock option first, strap or bracelet option, and then afterwards, whatever aftermarket stuff I can find to just show off the pairing. And this is definitely new as of today is March 2nd. 2025. This was just released March 1st, yesterday, 2025. It marks exactly to the date 60th anniversary or celebration of having the Speedmaster basically qualifying and being the pick for NASA to be their space watch. There's lots of details about this on the Swatch website about this. This is the new MoonSwatch Speedmaster MoonSwatch 1965. 1965 was the year that this happened, March 1st, 1965. So pretty cool. Of course, this is not just an Omega watch. It is a Swatch. Probably be more Swatch because it's so plasticky, but you gotta admit, you can't deny that, well, Omega is part of the Swatch group, and they obviously worked with them and basically gave the blessing to reproduce their iconic moon watch in the form of a MoonSwatch, and reinterpret it for the market that Swatch has. And I guess Omega too, if you're interested in this. Of course, if you can afford the real thing, you'll probably likely get the real thing, but these are also can be fun to have as well. Now, admittedly, I've been and I made this point in a previous video that since its release, maybe even maybe more like day 2 of its release, it kind of hit me that, well, yeah, these MoonSwatches were pretty hyped up. But unfortunately, the way they were released are such, limited quantities, and they didn't really communicate with the potential customers that were waiting for hours, often many hours, perhaps even a day ahead of waiting to get one in a line. And they obviously did not have could not accommodate everyone, and some people just kind of were waiting there for nothing because they were too far down the line to score one. And of course, excuse me, not being able to have these available online and only at retail stores, and they have closed down quite a bit. So there's there aren't that many, and they're very few and far apart. And some places just don't have them, right? And that kind of sucks that people are. A lot of people won't be able to really practically get one unless they go, secondary market. And of course, these things got marked up way high. So that all led to a pretty bitter taste for a lot of people, and especially myself. I was kind of stoked, and I was like, you know what, this is not worth that hype is just too much. And the trouble to get one of those moon watches originally was, it was a kind of a turn off, and I just kind of blew it off after that point. They did subsequently release like other iterations. I think first thing I could think of was probably they started to release basically the Moon Watch, which is basically like this but with the black dial, but then this has some other differences that have set it apart from the other ones right now. But and the only thing they changed, I believe, was just the chronograph second hand. They just kind of redesigned it slightly, and the rest of it, I believe, was pretty much the same. It's for a few of these I guess we call them like full moon events. So when there was a full moon, or maybe a new moon, I forget which one it was, but it was coinciding with these events, and they, I think, released those. They're limited editions, and they only released them on those dates and however long they lasted, and only in select cities that had a Swatch retail stores too. So that really limited it. And then it just seems like, well, you're just basically making the same watch and just with a superficial change and trying to just market a hype for its limited availability, and you just get this milking of the cash cow effect, which also got kind of tiresome. and they did release other MoonSwatches after that. Some that I believe were based off of the some places or events on Earth, such as the polar lights. It was kind of a bright green or turquoisey case, and then there was like a red one, kind of had some reddish orange one maybe. It had like, I think it was themed around something to do with lava. And then there was another polar one, I believe. Maybe it was Arctic edition, because the other one that they originally had was Arctic. Oh no, wait a minute. No, I'm thinking of the Blancpain Swatch collab. But nonetheless, it just seemed to go on with just basically superficial changes, basically cosmetic. Otherwise, it's the same watch, and just all this hype and unavailability. Still don't let you purchase this online, and so yeah, that was kind of bad. And then only not that long ago that they started to allow some of the original MoonSwatches, not all 9 of them, to be or is it 10 actually? Because there's 9 planets. Do they count Pluto? I think they do. 9 planets plus the sun. Sorry. Yeah. So, but anyway, some of them weren't available still. Only select ones, and it's still kind of the case right now, I believe. And so that kind of still that doesn't really please people, and plus the height was getting kind of turned or off, I guess. It wasn't really there too, so I think excuse me, some people started to not care anymore. But they recently, not too long ago, I guess it was about a year or so ago at most, right around there, as of this recording, they started to release a Moonphase version, an all white and basically an all black version, with the some accents that you can see, black on the white and white on the black, and with the Snoopy theme. And there was like a Moonphase, a dual Moonphase, I guess, for probably southern and northern hemisphere, up in this upper, like by the 2 o'clock subdial. So they replaced that with a Moonphase. And then not too long after that, they added another version where on this subdial, they added in addition to the Moonphase this side, on the 10 o'clock subdial, they added a Earth phase. So it looks like how you could, how the Earth might appear to the moon, from the moon rather. And that was kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think anyone could ever confirm this, but if it is what I say it is, I guess you'll get a view of how the Earth looks like from the moon on this subdial. So I didn't really like that design. It was interesting that they started to add some and modify the movement and add some other complications. So at least it wasn't the same old MoonSwatch. And then now, I guess it's been several months since that. I think that was the last release of anything to do with the MoonSwatch. This one, the 1965, celebrates what I said in the beginning, and I think it's pretty cool. At first it seems like, oh, it's just another cosmetic change, but there are these Easter eggs up here. The 1965 at the top of the registry, and the subdials, and the 60 at the top of that subdial. They all glow blue if you put it under a black light. Let's do the stitching on the strap actually. Bright blue. You can't see it. They don't glow constantly, so you just have. That's just something you need a black light to see. And so then the 1965, obviously in reference to the important year date of that. Sorry, what this watch is based on, and 60 for 60 years. But you'll notice that, okay, that's kind of weird, right? This would be the hour counter at the 10. This is the minute counter at the 2, and this is 19 hours. It counts 19 hours, but it's just so that they redivided that subdial to read 19 hours. It's just so that you can make use of that Easter egg. And then this one's 65 minutes. What? So this has been redesigned to accommodate 65 minutes for an hour, which it is and it isn't. And I have a video that explains actually how it works when you and it'll actually demonstrate what happens when it does start to change over the hour counter for the chronograph. So when you start the chronograph, the seconds hands in the middle will start ticking away, right, all around, and then as it's doing that, this minute counter will go down, right, all the way around, and then once it hits and this doesn't move yet, the hour hand, it just stays where it's at. It only moves at the end of that timing, that initial 65 minutes, right at 65 minutes, rather, after 64 minutes, let's say. So once you hit 64 minutes, that last, when it's counting down the last, when it's counting down that last minute to get to 65, as the second hand's going around, once it hits here, once the second hand hits the top of that next minute, which would be 65, right? I think they call it a victory lap or something. Basically, the hour and this minute hand both do a complete revolution, I guess a 360 around. Or it actually ends up being more than that, but it goes around, and then the hour hand advances that first hour to mark that first hour of being time. But because it does it at the 65th minute, technically, actually when this minute hand goes around, it'll actually stop past the 65 and land on the 5-minute marker. And so that actually makes up for, right, because if the hour hand moves at 65 minutes, that actually means it's actually had moved 5 minutes later than it should have. So to make that up, that when this goes around, it'll actually add 5 minutes back, so that so it's actually in sync with the actually is keeping proper time. It's a quick, interesting animation. It repeats this every 65 minutes, basically through every hour, 65 minutes really. But it basically makes up for that extra 5 minutes by adding it back in, because it was hour hand actually technically moved 5 minutes later than it should have, right? Sounds confusing, but actually when you see it work and you think about it, it actually makes sense. Not the most practical use of a chronograph or the way to read it, especially once it's coming to that end of that first hour or so, or rather after that first hour, that 5 minutes. You kind of have to wait for that last 5th minute for it to actually kind of catch up, I guess, or readjust itself. But it's kind of cool. It's a little it's a little bit of a party trick to compensate and allow you to still have the 19, the way they laid out the subdial, so that you can have the 19 and the 65 at the top, and the functionality still be there and make sense and work. And so maybe I might attach it to the end of this video so you don't have to go searching for it, but I'll make it as a short on my channel, just so that it's a quick thing to look at. It'll just be the chronograph would have been running for just about 64 minutes, and then I'll show it just as it's ticking over, and you'll see that quick sweep. So it goes real quick and then just keeps going on. It's pretty cool, and that's what drew me to this watch. Besides the obvious, borrowed design, I guess, from the current white dial Speedmaster Pro from Omega, which is really handsome, and which I would love to get someday, but that's like $8,100 plus tax and all that, and so that takes some while to save up. Additionally, for me, even if I could save up, if I could, and when I do save up for that amount of money for a watch, I have to admit, as much as I like that, I might actually spend it on something else instead before I get that white Speedy. I actually think I sort of like the first Omega in space, the new one that they put out, a little bit more. It's different. It's a bit polarizing because of you know that watch, some arguments for and against it. And there are other watches or chronographs that I might be further interested to try to purchase first before any of those, actually. So with that in mind, just to kind of be a bench warmer and just fill that spot, that if I had the money to get a white Speedy, this it's not a true substitute, not at all, but you can't, for me, it just hits enough of what that looks like visually, for me, that, you know, it'll work for as long as it needs to. And, you know, these things are not necessarily built to last forever anyways, but I think long enough that hopefully by the time, if it ever does crap out, if and when it ever does crap out, that I'll have the actual thing later. But yeah, that's about it. And I also like that on these, made a point that they actually, you know, use the vintage Omega logo up here, as well as the font or typeface. So it looks like the older one that they originally had back then. And so that's cool. And it's actually applied. I don't know if you can see that. The Omega logo itself, not the Omega text or typeface, but the logo, you can see trying to catch the reflection of it. So in the maybe some shadows, you can see that it is applied, which is cool. So that's another touch that the other MoonSwatches don't have. That's repeated, that this vintage design is actually repeated on this part of the strap. I think this is still part of the other MoonSwatches, the Mission to the Moon, as it says here. I think this is probably the same. If not, maybe they have a black text instead. But at least this part of it is new. I don't think any of them have this specific logo on there. So that's kind of cool. And actually, they went to, I can show here, they went through the trouble of actually updating the logo, the sign crown, on the sign crown. I'm trying to do this without punching my face. Yeah, so you can see there, so that logo, the Omega logo right over the X or by or times, or I guess it would be by S, the Swatch S, that logo is also the vintage version too. So that differs from the other Omega by Swatch, MoonSwatches. So that's kind of neat. So they did add some other, you know, changes that, you know, they could have done without. They could have maybe just left the crown and this part of the strap the same and just say, okay, we're just going to do it on the dial. But they actually went all the way and changed this to match as well as a crown. So, which is cool. You know, it's all consistent. I know there's been some brands that have kind of mix matched an old and new logo, or just different logos, and at least they kept this one consistent in that sense. So yeah, that's cool. And yeah, I think this is a cool, handsome addition. The included, you know, hook and loop strap that they, you know, had. It's okay. It's comfortable enough, but it's not the, you know, highest quality I imagine. And it's just, I think I wish there was more a mix of hook and loop back on this end from my wrist, so that it could actually hold this part out down a little bit tighter so it doesn't expand. So I think that's one thing about it, that you look at it, for most people, I think this part of it kind of bulges out just because there's no real hook and loop that matches on this part. It's just, I guess, loop and loop that touch each other. So there's nothing that kind of binds that part of the strap tighter together. So it kind of bulges out a little bit. It's just the way it is. I kind of accepted that. It's just, it's not, I've seen worse depending on your wrist size. It might, in shape, it might show up even more. But I try to bend this part of it, you know, give it a bit of a curve so it doesn't maybe angle outwards, but it kind of angles, curves back in slightly, and sort of this side. But you know, these are somewhat stiff, so they don't necessarily hold that curvature. But it is what it is. The great thing about this is that there's actually, by this point, there's actually quite a bit of aftermarket strap options for the MoonSwatches specifically. They include a number of rubber and, I guess, silicone, you know, fitted straps, and maybe, you know, what's curved fitted, which is what I would try to go for. I always try to get those straps to just kind of minimize the gap here, right? So I might get some of those. I don't try to avoid silicone. They are less expensive, but I just don't like the fact how easy they are to be dust and lint magnets. If it's FKM rubber or natural rubber or something like that, that's much better. They usually cost more, but at least I think quality-wise, there's probably just as durable, if not maybe slightly more. But the main thing is that they don't stick to lint and dust nearly as much as silicone would. And I'm sure I believe Strap Habit has made a new kind of a hook and loop system similar to this design too, which I should check out, which might be a decent replacement. I have to have a closer look at it to see how different it is. Is it actually worth trying one of those for a similar design. Do they actually do it better? And of course, if you want to do leather on this, I suppose you could. I would probably avoid anything too shiny. I think something more matte finish on a leather could potentially work. And I definitely think there's certainly some NATOs or other pass-through straps, NATO style, sorry, not saying, other pass-through straps could certainly work on such a style here. It would be cool if someday Swatch actually made a version with like bioceramic links, if that's even possible. So you can get like a link version of like a bracelet to match. Maybe someday, who knows? But that might be kind of expensive. I don't know. But I don't know. Come on, Swatch Group. They have got the money to invest in something like that, especially with how many of these units they've actually moved. They should have made quite a bit off of these. Anyways, there it is, trying to show the different angles. I know I pretty much showed it at one angle, but I mean, by this time most people are familiar with the MoonSwatch's size, fit, dimensions, and how it looks on wrist. My wrist is 7-inch, by the way, and these pretty much are one-to-one in terms of the details and the size of the actual Omega Speedmaster Professional moon watches. It's just that they're obviously made out of plastic, but I don't mind. I kind of went in this loosening up my views about the MoonSwatch thing, and this particular one just struck a chord with me. I like the design because of its relationship to how it looks like with the white Speedy Pro right now, and also I think the little details and the fact that they did some custom work on the strap, the crown, obviously the dial, and also the movement. There's no other movement, at least currently, that has this kind of functionality, and I'm not sure if they ever will, because this is specific for 1965. Unless they celebrate another year or something else, then they may potentially reuse it. But then, that's going to be all sets of different numbers. I don't think they can do. I don't know. It would be hard to do some even more. Well, 19 and 20 and 65 are kind of odd numbers too, to try to rework the movement so that it actually times it correctly. But it is all electronic mostly, but semi-mechanical, I guess, in terms of what be in a quartz movement. But as far as I can foresee, I mean, this is very specific for this watch. So, and these are not limited edition, which is great. So you should be able to pick these up too, almost any moment. The line that I was in, as I think I put in my video, was not that long, 10-15 people by the time. I mean, I had gotten there really, I was at the beginning of the line next to one other person. We killed time by chatting, 2.5 hours or so. So it's just an experience. Again, even though it's a long ass wait, I've never done that before. The longest wait I had was waiting for Black Friday to get into Walmart, of all places. But that's back when that was a thing. But yeah, so only 10-15 people by the time the doors open at 10 a.m. And so, but then I think throughout the day, actually, I was walking around the mall afterwards, and there wasn't any real line there. I guess it wasn't enough to keep security outside, and they just started to let people freely come in because it wasn't that busy, actually. And I'm glad I went there instead of going to San Francisco, because that either might have been a lot more busier, plus the area isn't quite as nice, at least not these days, as far as I've been told or has been reported. So yeah, I've gone on long enough. This is definitely a much longer watch your Strappin video, but I had several thoughts I didn't get out, I don't think, on my initial video about this, and I just wanted to share it. I mean, yeah, I guess there are people that will still hate on these, and I don't care. And initially I didn't hate's a strong word, but I didn't particularly care for them after a certain point, because they did feel a bit like redundant and just like, okay, there's another version. But I think they did do something different and special enough with this one that made it, excuse me, recovering from a cold, that made me actually got me thinking enough that, yeah, I think I would like to try to get this one this time if I could get it. And I made an effort and it paid off. And yeah, it's not perfect, and there's certainly like, I think there are some tolerance issues. I know that the hands aren't 100% aligned, and I know I'm not the only one that has that. And there's some looseness when maybe they're moving around sometimes. I don't know, but overall it holds up. And for what I was expecting, this $270 is not inexpensive plus tax for a plastic watch essentially. But given its ties to Omega and the design, and it's reasonably well executed for what it is. I know it's not going to be super durable, but I'm very careful with my watches anyways. But I think it's okay. I would never pay over retail for these. Again, these are not limited edition, so I don't think you should. If anything, because of that, maybe you might be able to probably find them for less once they're used on the secondary market. But as it is, I think it's fair. I mean, I was willing to wait in line for almost basically 3 hours and pay what it was on launch. So they're no different in price than the regular MoonSwatch is at $270 currently. Who knows how it'll be later, but that's what it's holding at so far. Anyways, babbled long enough, and I need to get my day going. So thanks for watching, and yeah, enjoy your watches. Oh, by the way, yeah, the lume does work. I'm not gonna throw up a lume shot because I'm in broad daylight right now, but they're on the hands, and the indexes, you can see like the 2 dots up by the 12, and the right on the outer edge of those black indexes, which they look like, I don't know if they're truly applied, but they could be. I don't know, maybe they're molded or heavily painted in, but they kind of match like what's going on the white Speedy as well. But anyways, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your watches. I look forward to trying some other straps on this when I get a chance to switch it up. But this is what's going on its maiden voyage, I guess. Later. One should be 64, as well as if it's 65 plus the 1, wouldn't that make it 6 minutes ahead? So it would be technically 1 minute off. We'll see. Is it right here, or there we go. That's what it should be like. So yeah, so you understand, because the way I saw it before, when it was counting off, I believe it was 1 minute ahead. Something